Taunton Greyhound Park in Rayhnam, Massachusetts. TV 38 Sports presents the 1987 American Greyhound Race of Champions. Brought to you in part by the Adolph Coors Company, brewer of Coors Beer, Coors Light Beer, and Killian's Irish Red Ale. And by your New England Ford dealers. Nobody goes further. Good evening, everyone, and welcome live to Rayhnam Taunton Greyhound Park in Rayhnam, Massachusetts. I'm Sean McDonough, along with the racing secretary here at Rayhnam, Gary Walker. It's nice to have you with us tonight for the richest and most prestigious event in all of American Greyhound racing, the American Greyhound Racing Championship. And Gary, for those who are tuning in, might be new to Greyhound racing, what is this event that they're going to be watching over the next half hour?
Well, Sean, basically we have the finest 3/8 of a mile greyhounds in the whole country here assembled from AGTOA member tracks. And people who thought enough of their dogs to put up a $3,000 supplemental entry fee to get them here. We started off with 56 dogs throughout the country, and tonight we're down to the final 8.
8 dogs, and they come from all over the country, as far away as Portland, Oregon, and Jacksonville, Florida. We also have a couple of hometown favorites from Massachusetts and Rhode Island in our field. This is the 6th annual Race of Champions. It's the first time ever that it's been held here at Rayhnam or in Massachusetts at any track, and we have a standing room only crowd of 8,500. A huge crowd on hand to be wagering on this race and to watch the finest greyhounds in the country. As I said, many of you might not know too much about greyhound racing. I did not as I began my preparation for this event. So Gary had a chance to visit with one of the most famous greyhound trainers in the game today. He is Don Cuddy. He's based here at Rayhnam, and Gary visited with him to learn more about greyhound racing.
To the average sports fan, greyhound racing, along with the people associated with it, is something of an enigma. Most of the mystery and bad publicity is rooted in the general public's lack of knowledge of the sport and the fact that dog racing gets buried in the back of the sports pages. But in recent years, greyhound racing has experienced tremendous growth, and for one of the sport's legendary trainers and one of Ireland's finest exports, the resurgence could not have come at a better time in his storied career. Don Cuddy is a straightforward, no-nonsense guy, an endearing Irishman who is one heck of a greyhound trainer. After arriving in Hollywood, Florida in 1969 from Dublin and spending the next 17 years shuttling between Florida and Wonderland here in Boston, Cuddy packed up his dogs last year and headed south on Route 128.
I think I've been quoted as saying it was a case of dying and going to heaven because quite honestly, I was declared persona non grata at Wonderland, and because of that, if that hadn't been the case, I would possibly never have come to Rayhnam. But it's a move that it was just divine guidance that sent me here, I'm sure.
Perhaps it was something otherworldly that sent him back to Rayhnam, where in 1977 at Taunton he won the American Derby with Downing, arguably the greatest greyhound ever and the sport's first syndicated stud.
I think his performance on the track was absolutely phenomenal, and he was one of the dogs that went on to prove it at stud. And he was a dog that I was very fortunate enough to handle and have in the kennels, and we got a tremendous kick out of running him.
But even dogs like Downing require a great deal of care, and for Don and his wife Marie, who Don describes as the engine that pulls this train, the day begins early.
The maintenance and care of these dogs is it's full time, and it's long hours, and it's really a labour of love. Just to give you an idea of the schedule, we got a staff of 5 here, and we start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the dogs are let out in the turnout pens, and at that stage it gives me a chance to just look them over in the pens, and they're checked over for the ones that are running that night and the ones that ran the previous night. We have a grooming bench on which they're stood, and they're examined for any injuries that they may have incurred or any sore toes or that, and their general net well-being is just checked out. But the main thing is we're concerned about is is that the dogs are taken care of and that they can perform up to their maximum potential.
And the diet for the 66 dogs in Don's kennel is a little different from that of your average house pet.
Some people have a misconception that it's only a matter of throwing a can of Alpo. Basically, they're carnivorous, and the main diet is meat. And they're fed 1.25 pounds to 1.5 pounds approximately of meat. Added to that is some dry feed, some of choice meal. And I suppose it's the Irish in us. We cook a stew for them every day. So they're really well taken care of. Sometimes I think they're better fed than I am. Mm-hmm.
As Greyhound Racing grows, Don Cuddy continues to work towards educating the public about the sport that for too long has been saddled with an image problem, due largely to its muzzled competitors.
The dogs themselves they're got a great, for the most part, have a great disposition and very agreeable, and there's no viciousness or malice in 99% of them.
Don Cuddy has devoted his life to Greyhound Racing, and as the sport gains wider appeal and larger purses, he sees it flourishing for years to come. There is no way it can't with people like Don around.
Gary, that's a very nice feature about a very nice man. I had a chance to talk with Don Cuddy, as we mentioned a little while ago. He does not have a greyhound running in tonight's race, but he told me he does have a little bit of an interest in E.T.'s Pesky, a dog that's up from Florida, because E.T.'s Pesky has been staying in his kennel, so that's where his heart will lie tonight. We should also point out you saw Don's wife, Marie, cutting up the vegetables. You might think that all she does to contribute is make a great Irish stew, which she does as well, but Marie is also a very fine trainer in her own right. Coming up next, we'll take a look at the favorites, and we'll introduce you to tonight's field when our coverage of the American Greyhound Race of Champions continues live from Rayhnam, Taunton. Welcome back to the American Greyhound Race of Champions live from Rayhnam, Taunton Greyhound Park in Rayhnam. I'm Sean McDonough along with Gary Walker. We have a field of 8, and anytime you have a field of this magnitude, it's tough to pick favorites. That's the tough task that we put before you now. Who do you like in tonight's race?
Well, first of all, Sean, I like the one dog, E.T.'s Pesky. She's sitting where she wants to be. It's always a tremendous advantage to be in the one hole, shown here with trainer Richard Child. E.T.'s Pesky is one of the dogs that could go to the front and steal this race.
As
Here
we'll
you
see
say,
here.
Right, and this is the first qualifying round. Here she's the one dog, the 2 is aptly named, who swings wide, and there's where you have the advantage in that one hole. You get a little room on the inside, and a dog like E.T.'s Pesky can show her heels to the field, never look back.
We mentioned earlier these dogs had to go through 3 qualifying rounds. This was the first, which E.T.'s Pesky won. 54 pounds, lightest dog in the field. Does that make any difference?
Doesn't really make a difference, but again, that's another advantage of her being inside, away from the trouble, and she won't tend to get knocked around quite as much from there.
E.T.'s Pesky out of Flagler, Florida. The owner, Emil Tennis, the trainer, Richard Child. Richard Child, very anxious for this race to get underway. Like all of the trainers, he hopes that his dog will be successful tonight. And we talked with Richard Child about tonight's race.
I view the final race. It looks like a very interesting field of greyhounds, and as far as Pesky goes, we want her to draw an inside position and go to the front and don't look back.
Gary, Richard got his wish. E.T.'s Pesky drew the number 1, so Richard's very happy going into the race tonight.
He certainly is.
Another favorite that we're looking for tonight.
Well, if you can't go to the front, you've got to come from behind, and the dog to do that is number 8, Steve. He is shown here with trainer Gary Oswick, and he is one of the strongest closers in the race. He can get in all kinds of trouble, as you'll see in this race we have to show you here. Here he's breaking from number 4 position, gets knocked around in the turn, and you'll really be surprised to see exactly how much ground this dog can make up. Mickey Secret on the front here, running out to a long early lead. Steve again, the 4, with all kinds of trouble in the turns.
You can see right there, Steve way back in the green wearing number 4, seemingly out of the race at this point. 77 pounds, as we mentioned, some 23 pounds more than E.T.'s Pesky. Perhaps that size and strength helps with a strong finish.
Yeah. No early lead is a safe lead with Steve behind you. He can reel in the best. He's a powerful finisher. As you'll see right here, he just blew that field away.
Steve, one of the local dogs representing Rayhnam Taunton Greyhound Park. Not involved with Steve, but a big fan of Steve, is Aaron Kolchinsky, a former trainer, a legendary trainer now in the Greyhound Racing Hall of Fame. We talked with Aaron about Steve.
if you was going to have to pick one, you'd have to pick Steve. He's right in his home grounds. He's been running this racetrack real good. But you really can't pick one dog to win this race.
Indeed, you can't. There are 8 of them here in the country. A third dog that we should look for, Kiowa Babs, another local dog out of Lincoln, Rhode Island, Lincoln Greyhound Park. The racing director there is Jay Epstein, and we talked with Jay about Kiowa Babs.
She's as fast as anybody, and I think she'll be in the winner's circle, definitely for the Race of Champions. No question in my mind. She's every bit as good as every other entry, if not a little bit better.
Jay Epstein confident, as are the other people involved with their respective dogs. Now it's time to go down to the Oval and meet the rest of tonight's field. It's the Parade of Champions, and Gary, why don't you take us through?
Okay, Sean. Here are the entries and post weights for this evening's Race of Champions. Number 1, E.T.'s Pesky by Sure Cash Reward J.R. Sunkist. This is a supplemental entry from Flagler, who earned 60 points in the elimination rounds, weighing in at 54 pounds. The owner and kennel owner are Emiltanis, trained by Mr. Richard Child. E.T.'s Pesky was a finalist in the tri-distance stake at Flagler. Next up, number 2, Guy Kirby by Kunta Kinte and F. Lee Bailey. Representing Derby Lane in St. Petersburg, Guy Kirby comes in earning 54 points and weighing 70 pounds. Owned, kenneled, and trained by Mr. E.J. Alderson. Generally regarded by the Railbirds at St. Petersburg to be the toughest 3/8 dog at Derby Lane in the second half of the season. Number 3, Cursor by Rooster Cogburn and Bun Eckert, representing Derby Lane and St. Petersburg also, earning 60 points in the eliminations, weighing 69.5 pounds. The owner, Bean and Hardison, kennel North Shore. The trainer is Mr. Bruce Davis. Cursor won the St. Petersburg Derby and was the first dog to ever beat the Great Kiefer at 3/8 of a mile. Number 4, Kiowa Babs by Bon Patriot Jackie Parr, representing Lincoln Greyhound Park in Rhode Island. She earned 56 points in the eliminations, weighing in at 61.5 pounds. The owner is Kay Smith, the kennel David Lingle, and trainer Ray Brownlee. Kiowa Babs was a finalist in both the Plainfield and Wonderland Derbies this year. Number 5, Ace That's That by P.L. Greer, Miss That's That, representing the Multnomah Kennel Club in Portland, Oregon, earned 60 points in the elimination rounds, weighing in at 66.5 pounds, owned and kenneled by Mr. D.Q. Williams with trainer Mark Smith. Ace That's That was a recent finalist in the Multnomah Derby. Number 6, Snaps Larry by Corbin and Little Madge, representing the Bayard Raceway in Jacksonville, Florida. He earned 48 points in the elimination rounds, weighing in here at 76.5 pounds. Owner Vernon Margaret Dial, Kennel Dial Enterprises, the trainer Mr. Robert Dial. Snaps Larry turned in the fastest qualifying time in the elimination rounds at 37:24. He also won the Orange Park 3/8 Derby and the Jacksonville 7/16 Stake. Number 7, Kiowa Gem by Sports Special and Breezen Norma, representing Rayhnam Taunton, earned 44 points during the eliminations. She weighs in at 54.5 pounds. The owner, Kay Smith, kennel David Lingle, and trainer Jeff Daigneault. Kiowa Gem was the marathon champion this year at Rayhnam Taunton. Finally, number 8, Steve by Barry Linden and Sterrett, representing Rayhnam Taunton. Steve earned 46 points in the elimination rounds, weighing in tonight at 77 pounds. The owner is Wesley Lawrence, kennel Otto Mamino Hall of Famer, and trainer Gary Oswick. Steve was a finalist in both the marathon and distance championships here at Rayhnam and ran second to the great homespun Rowdy in the first annual All-American Triathlon here at Rayhnam. Ladies and gentlemen, there are your entries for this year's Race of Champions.
Well done, Gary, and the crowd responding to this great field of champions. They are all champions. This race will be fast, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be over in less than 38 seconds. We'll be back with the exciting American Greyhound Race of Champions live on TV 38 right after this. Welcome back. A standing room only crowd of more than 8,500 on hand for this 6th annual American Greyhound Race of Champions. As you can imagine, there's a lot of money bet on these dogs tonight. Let's look over our shoulders now and take a look at the odds boards and see who the spectators here think are the favorites. We've given you ours already. Right now, as you can see, it's number 8, Steve, who seems to be the crowd favorite, Gary.
The hometown favorite usually gets the play, and that's what's happening here tonight. Next favorite would be E.T.'s Pesky in the one hole. Those are the two dogs that really figured coming in, and then a very evenly matched board after that. Is one of the most evenly matched fields I've ever seen in a Derby field.
You can tell just by looking down the board. E.T.'s Pesky, number 1 at 3-1. Guy Kirby at 4-1. Guy Kirby's number 2 in this race. Number 3, Cursor at 5-1 right now. Kiowa Babs, number 4, also off at 5-1. We're still a couple of minutes away from post time. Number 5, East, That's That, 6-1 at the moment. Snaps Larry at 13-1. Kiowa Gem 15-1, and Steve the favorite at the moment, 5-2. And as you said, that can be attributed to the hometown favorite. Let's see if the odds change here. And indeed they do.
We now have co-favorites, the 1 and the 8, E.T.'s Pesky and Steve, the co-favorites now, which really was what figured coming into this race.
The third dog that we mentioned, Kiowa Babs.
Kiowa Babs at 5-1, getting some respect from the bettors also.
Dogs across the track. It's 3/8 of a mile race. They're making their way into the starting boxes. For the call of this race, let's send you upstairs to the track announcer here at Rayhnam Taunton, David Burke.
Thank you, Sean and Gary. We're just about set for the running of the 1987 Race of Champions. Greyhounds are being placed into the starting box for the running of the 9th race. Favorites at this time are in the 1, E.T.'s Pesky, and the 8, Steve. Both Greyhounds are at 3-1. Support being shown for the 2 Greyhound Guy Kirby at 9-2. Here comes Rusty. Quickly, it's the 1, E.T.'s Pesky moving from the one hole. Cursor moving up second. 5 Ace, That's That up third. Around the first turn and heading for the front stretch, it's E.T.'s Pesky out on top by 2 lengths. Cursor up second. 5 Ace, That's That. 2 Guy Kirby. Around the curtain turn, E.T.'s Pesky continues to lead. Ace, That's That now moving up second on the rail. 3 Cursor. Down the back stretch, E.T.'s Pesky leading throughout. 5 up second. 3. Heading into the clubhouse turn now, E.T.'s Pesky, 3-1 shot, one of the co-favorites out on top, throughout 5-8. Heading for home, it's E.T.'s Pesky, going box to wire, 8-5-2.
Gary, you had it right on the money. E.T.'s Pesky is our winner. Second, number 8, Steve, and third, number 5, Ace, That's That, a dog that really did not get much attention, but certainly grabbed attention with a strong third place showing. But well, E.T.'s Pesky, you said, would get on the rail and try to get out there and lead from start to finish, and she did.
Right, she stole it. That's why you want the red blanket. Richard Child was hoping to draw the inside. He drew it, and she certainly didn't let him down.
Let's take a look at the replay of this race. $62,500 going for E.T.'s Pesky, half of the $125,000 purse. Early on, it was not Steve. We talked about Steve liking to come from behind. Steve not in the picture there among the first 3. It was 1, 3, and 5 early on, Gary, but Steve came hard late, and if the race was a little bit longer, Steve might have made it.
Right, he's a hard knocker, and he never quits. He got the inside in the curtain turn there and made up as much ground as he could, but E.T.'s Pesky, this was just her night. She broke on top, she was on top of her form, and she loves the Rayhnam Oval.
E.T.'s Pesky out of Flagler, Florida. Lightest dog in the field at 54 pounds, owner Emil Tanis, the trainer Richard Child, whom we heard from earlier, and this is right out of the starting box.
Right out of the box here, you can see Ace That Sat trying to get through, but that's a disadvantage of the 5-hole. He did not have the room that E.T.'s Pesky had. Had Ace That Sat been on the inside, he would have been much more of a favorite. Pesky just took full advantage of where she was in that race.
Cursor, number 3, up there early, running second for a while. Just couldn't seem to sustain the pace.
Right, Cursor needed the front. He wanted to be in the lead where E.T.'s Pesky was. When he doesn't have the lead, he's not going to be the same dog as he is on the front.
E.T.'s Pesky going wire to wire. Steve, number 8, charging hard at the end. Winning time on the board, 37.99 seconds.
That's an extremely fast time for tonight's track conditions. That's quick. She ran a super race.
We will be going down to the winner's circle to talk with people responsible for the success of E.T.'s Pesky in just a moment. We'll be back to Rayhnam Taunton right after this. Here's your winner of the 1987 American Greyhound Race of Champions, number 1, E.T.'s Pesky, in a time of 37.99 seconds. Let's go down to Gary Walker now. He's standing by in the winner's circle. Gary?
Yeah, that's right.
With me here is the chairman of the board, Mr. George Carney, the man responsible for putting this show on. George, you have to be pleased with tonight's crowd and the enthusiasm for this race.
That's right, Gary. It really is a great feeling to be out here and see so many people and have this is a great thing for dog racing, and that's what we're trying to do. And I'm very happy to be here with my brother Joe and my daughter Kelly and Louis Tiant that came down through the courtesy of Bob Crane and the Lottery Commission to be with us also. I'd like to thank everybody from Channel 38 that made it all possible and everybody else that participated in and helped us put this thing together for tonight.
Thank you, George. Next, I'll have Mr. Richard Child, who's one happy trainer right now. Richard, you got the post position you want, and she did not let you down.
Absolutely. Fantastic race.
Well, I think you deserved a little good luck. You had some bad luck coming in here, losing one of your greyhounds to an injury before we even got started. But Pesky certainly came through for you.
She certainly did. She made up for everything. Thank the good Lord for that.
Well, thank you, Dick, and good luck to you and your greyhound in future endeavors, and I'm sure you'll have some derby plans for her very shortly.
Certainly will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now back to Sean McDonough.
Thank you very much, Gary. Congratulations to Richard Child and all of the owners and trainers of E.T.'s Pesky, an impressive winner going wire to wire to win. Let's take a look, if we can, one last time at the tote board and see what the payoffs were for tonight's race, the Greyhound Race of Champions. The winner, number 1, E.T.'s Pesky, second, number 8, Steve, and third, number 5, Ace That's That. The winner paid $860, $420, and $420. Steve paid $380 and $340. And Ace That's That paid $560, and you see the time of the race, 37.99. That does it. We hope you've enjoyed this first ever coverage of the 6th Annual American Greyhound Race of Champions. The winner, E.T.'s Pesky, in a time of 37.99. For Gary Walker and the rest of our TV 38 Greyhound Racing televising team, I'm Sean McDonough. Thanks for watching. So long, everyone. The 1987 American Greyhound Race of Champions has been brought to you in part by the Adolph Coors Company, brewer of Coors Beer, Coors Light Beer, and Killian's Irish Red Ale. And by your New England Ford dealers. Nobody goes further.